In this video, we'll see what's involved in adding Docker support to an application using Visual Studio 2017. Let's just quickly create a new application. So let's say File, New Project. I'll do an ASP.NET Core Web application. I'll put that in ctemp and I'll call this Docker Quest. All right. So we'll start with a web application here. Notice I could immediately enable Docker support while building this, but I'll just say OK because we can see that it can be done later, and I want to show you what happens if you have an existing application. Same thing applies with standard ASP.NET MVC applications, not just with .NET Core ones. So once we have this in place, if I look at my Solution Explorer here, notice the files that are currently present. If I right-click the project, I have an option here to add, and I can either add container orchestration support, or in this case, I just want to do Docker support. Now, I could choose Windows or Linux support. I'll say Linux. And effectively, what that will do is add to my solution a Docker file, which it's then opened here. Now, this is a multi-stage Docker file. So the first step here is it's grabbed the ASP.NET Core runtime, and it's called that base with an alias, set a working directory, and it's exposed two ports. This means they're exposed within the container. Then they've started with the SDK version. They've copied in the application, done a .NET restore, and then they've done a .NET build to actually build the application. Once that's been published via a .NET publish, off this base that was up here, they've copied in the application, and then this is then the thing that ends up being the final application. It means that we haven't included all of the content that was there as part of the build process for the application itself in that final image. Now, to deploy that to the container registry, again, we can right-click and it's Publish. And instead of the standard destinations where we would send things to, we can say I want to send that to a container registry. Now notice I can create a new one, or I could use an existing one, which is what I'll do. But notice the commands are compatible for doing this with Docker Hub. And that's also, I might add, where those Microsoft base images came from. So if I then say Publish, we've found the subscription and the resource group here. And so I could say this is the one that we created earlier, and say that's the one I want to deploy to. That will create a publish profile that I can then use again and again to deploy to that same registry. You'll get to do more of that in the lab.